Sacred Symbols is sponsored by Fume, a new positive habit that can replace an older harmful one. How did it take so long for someone to come up with something so useful and appealing to so many people? It's a valid question to ask as you breathe through your Fume, an artfully made and sturdy implement constructed of fine wood and metal. Will you give Fume a try? You'll be glad you did. It's time to start the holidays off right with the good habit by going to tryfume.com/sacred. That's tryfum.com/sacred and getting the journey pack today. Fume is giving Sacred Symbols listeners 10% off when they use the code SACRED to help making starting the good habit that much easier. Again, that's tryfume.com/sacred to begin your flavored air journey today. Sacred Symbols is sponsored by MeUndies, the online megastore where comfort reigns supreme. I've had some pairs of MeUndies underwear for literally years on end, and they're still going strong. With versatile styles, breathable fabrics, and a problem-free philosophy that stresses easy returns, you have nothing to risk by trying MeUndies for yourself. Knock out your holiday shopping today and get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/sacred. That's MEUNDIES.com/SACRED. Again, that's MeUndies.com/sacred for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode number 286. My name is Colin Moriarty, being distracted again by my watch, my weekly summary. So far, you've beat this week's daily move goal 5 times. That's nice. Thank you for letting me know in the middle of the podcast for no reason. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined as always by my son, Chris Raygun, with his army hat on because he's ready for the Chinese invasion. He's ready for that EMP explosion. He's ready to go. Red Dawn, Wolverines. Chris, welcome to the show.
Man, I just put the hat on, but thank you for that gracious intro. Yeah. Oh man.
How are you today?
I'm good. I feel pretty. I've been feeling pretty good lately, just in general, because I finally actually started getting my actual medication for ADHD.
Oh, good.
So it's actually
is it working?
So that's been totally. Like in a way that's really kind of shocking. Maybe I'll do like I might even just do a video on it just because it really is fascinating. Because I'm very like cognizant and aware. It's like I remember going to like different psychiatrists and they would like put me on like they would give me like Xanax or something and I wasn't even really sure what the hell it was doing. You know, like I couldn't really pinpoint like if it was wearing off or what it was doing for me at all. But this one, it's like, oh, I can visibly see like the difference. It's kind of wild.
I heard if you take 3 times as much, you'll be 3 times as focused.
That's true.
True. Maybe you could do that on video for the video.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start with 500 milligrams.
Yeah.
What is it, Adderall?
Adderall for me right now.
Yeah, I've known many people that have taken that, and it's helped them. I'm a little afraid of it personally because I heard that, and I think it's obviously gonna be different for everyone. But just knowing myself, I heard that it's like mega addictive. You know, if you get caught in that mode. I experienced it for the first time. I never took it actually, but I experienced it for the first time in college 20 years ago because people were popping that shit left and right to study. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just going to study. I don't think I really need to do that. But
yeah, I could definitely see that. I think for me, I'm trying to train my brain into realizing that it can do certain things. It's almost like at nighttime when it's almost like if at night like there's like a room with a bunch of shit in it and you turn the light on and that's the medicine. And then like you turn the light off and you just I'm trying my best to kind of study the neural pathways that I'm aware that I'm going down. So that way, like when I'm off it, I have a better chance of like maybe replicating it or mimicking it in some way. I'm not on it every day or anything because I know that's like a problem.
That's good.
But that's the mindset that I'm going in with because I've known people who have like really gone down some crazy dependency roads with that stuff. But
be honest with me, you go see Dr. Rosenblatt?
No, it's so far.
I know he's so far away. He's so far away. He wasn't far away from me, but he was really far away from you.
I could literally only justify going to see him after, like I would go to therapy after Sacred Symbols.
Yeah, which is
it was like 3 blocks down or something.
Dude, imagine how funny that is though, that you would go to record Sacred Symbols and then immediately go to therapy.
It was very necessary.
Man, that says it all. Dustin Furman, executive producer, and your sweat. I have that same sweater. I'm going to wear that. We do Christmas Eve and Christmas. I'll wear that at one of those. I keep meaning to get, there's a good G.I. Joe one I keep meaning to buy, and every time I think about buying it, because it's old, but every year it's sold out. So it's probably going to be sold out when I check it out. Good. Welcome to the show. I should get a Castlevania one like this. There's probably one of those.
That would be, that'd be sick.
Welcome. Mega Man would be cool too. Dr. Light as Santa Claus. I mean, I think that kind of works pretty well. Enough about that. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. How are you today? Looking handsome, ready for the vacation. We're recording this the weekend before we go away. So we're days away from actually being away, which is strange. Like I am, again, not a coal miner. I get it. But you're never just away. I'm never off. There's always this low level of shit to do, at least. And now we're about this far away from a little time off. How do you feel?
Go to the other side of the planet. It's amazing. That was the first time I was away when I was in Japan since 2020, I think, maybe. I don't know. Dude, it's kind of scary at first because you're like, oh no, I think that when you're at a job like this, and I'm speaking for myself, there's like this ego of, if I'm not there, what's going to happen if they need me? But if you trust in your cohorts, your people you do business with, and everyone's prepared, it works out. And
trust your uselessness and that nobody needs you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is the message I think he's trying to send.
It's a freeing experience. I recommend it. But I, right now, Colin, we are deep in the midst of things. We have a lot of stuff recorded. I do not feel behind and I do not feel ahead, which I guess I'm thankful for, because
I will feel ahead after this, because after this, I think I only have to record 2 Sacred Pluses, Knockback, Sacred, Constellation, and I think I'm done. And that's easy. Because we've just been stacking. Because again, we exchange in this, and I'm sure Chris agrees with his own independent work as well. We exchange a level of significant freedom compared to 9 to 5 with the inability to disconnect from what we're doing. Even if you're off. I used to go on vacations when I was in media and when I was that kind of funny and early on in this company, and it's like, you're not really on vacation. I went on vacation to Palm Springs 2 days before we launched Sacred Symbols, and you better believe that I was completely on my computer at a pool the entire time. So I look at it and I'm excited about it, and I was sad last year because I think I expressed on this show I almost cried last year towards the end because I'm like, I can't believe that this is almost over. And I know it sounds so melodramatic, but you just, I don't know, it's stressful. So I'm happy for everyone. Everyone's done a really great job, because the important thing for us for the holidays is to not miss, because we are so blessed is he, that we get to work and do this kind of stuff. And a lot of people have to work on Christmas, have to drive a truck on Christmas, have to go somewhere during the holidays. Nothing changes for them. There is no disruption. So why disrupt their content?
Yeah.
Because that would, imagine how depressing that is if it's like you have to work December 29th and everyone you love to listen to distract you and they're all gone. It's like, that sucks. I don't want to do that to people, that's lame. So instead, we'll give you a couple interstitial episodes, as we always do every year. And Chris, I think you and I started this tradition back in 2018. So we've been doing this since the first year of the show. And by the way, we're entering, as I said, the 6th calendar year of the show. 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23.
So fucking weird.
So 7th, 24, right? 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 7th calendar year.
It's so weird. That's such a weird thing to be cognizant of. Because it really doesn't feel like that much time has passed at all. No, definitely not. It's just a tradition at this point. And I don't know how you guys feel. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. You can say whatever you want, but I look forward to recording every week because it's my social engagement. And then, you know what I mean? And it's the same thing with Constellation and Knockback and all those things. Like I kind of look forward to those shows because and then I kind of just otherwise am just me and Micah and the pups and just hanging out, so I like recording these, and that will be a little different over the holidays, of course, as each year we don't get to do much. But Dustin, how else you feeling? How you got your coffee? And
I'm disappointed this morning. I gotta say, I played the Fortnite music mode made by Harmonix.
Yeah,
and
trash.
It's not trash. It's just it it's the opportunity cost that I'm feeling.
Mm.
Because I'm thinking so much about Rock Band these past few weeks, trying to gather some instruments for a Christmas party that I'm having very little luck. I'm finding them. They're just, dude, it's like, I don't want to spend $100 on a used Guitar Hero controller. Just feels insane, but I might have to.
It's crazy how that's kind of coming, like swung around. Like the people who hung on to that stuff really bit the bullet because that shit was worthless. I remember walking around San Francisco and just seeing that shit on the street everywhere. People trying to get rid of that stuff at some point. So it's funny.
Well, and it's sad. I have held on to a lot of my stuff and I've used it sporadically throughout the years. It's just because it's been used throughout the past 10 years, it's starting to break. My one guitar controller broke. My other one's on the way to breaking. The drums are okay, but eventually the foot pedal is going to crack. So it's, it's got me a little feeling down that we don't have a new Rock Band in our lives, but I'm holding out hope. I'm going to will it into existence. Maybe. I don't know if I have that ability.
It's not like it didn't happen. It did go away and come back and no one cared.
It was too soon.
Yeah.
It was too soon. They needed more time in between. I think they tried to push, because now it would have the nostalgia factor. And it just was too soon after, It was
too soon. I do think, potential silver lining to this, though, even though this isn't, Rock Band in its authentic form, a lot of people play Fortnite. A lot of people are probably gonna check this out, and I wouldn't be surprised if this creates some sort of appetite to make that in some way reasonable to try again sometime in the future. Because Fortnite's a crazy platform, and I would have to imagine, I don't know if this is true, but I would have to imagine that a lot of people under the age of like 20, 22, 21 maybe probably haven't. I don't know where you would even really play a Rock Band.
Yeah, it's interesting. They kind of missed it.
Yeah.
There's it's interesting. We talk about what would be a good example? Like UDraw put THQ out of business. Like that was responsible for that. Rock Band 4 put Mad Catz out of business. I don't know if you guys remember that. Like Rock Band 4 killed Mad Catz, that company. Because Mad Catz was the publisher of the game. And they double and triple down. They're like, oh, this is going to be mega huge. They published the game. They put all the money into making it. They licensed all the music. They put all the new things out, and they declared bankruptcy. And that was the end of that.
That was
they're back
their
now.
ninth life.
Oh, they exist in some capacity, because I know that someone there listens to Sacred Symbols or something. There was some interaction in our Discord.
Oh,
with
that's
an official
right. Yeah,
Mad Catz account. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Here's what it says on Wikipedia is that they're in their second incarnation as of January 2018. This is like a new version of Mad Catz. That it's basically what Embracer did to THQ, where you just buy the brand name. Or Atari is kind of technically in that situation too. Atari is far distant from their origins as well. But I
wonder how that business even. I guess the CEO, John Mad Catz, probably has a lot of ideas. Probably.
I'm on their
John
website.
Mad Catz, what a loser.
It looks like they do. It looks like they do like gaming chairs and gaming mice and nice keyboards and such now. The copyright on the website is 2020, though. I mean, not that means anything, but usually you would want to update that. Yeah, I don't know. Brand story.
I know you're
After
probably
going
right.
bankrupt.
You're probably right to call it mice in computer terms, but that sounds weird to me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it's like the classic Xerox story when they were presented by Xerox PARC in the 70s with the mouse prototype. The guys handed it to them and called it a mouse, and they're like, you want us to sell something called a mouse? And that's why no one gives a fuck about Xerox anymore.
Yeah.
Because they didn't
get
it. Up. Yeah, Mad Catz is run out of Hong Kong now, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of, now this is all tickling something in my head. You're right, Dustin. We had some sort of interaction with them. They wanted to buy a sponsorship, didn't they? And we declined, or so, there was something like that.
No, was that it? Or I thought that was, what is it? The controller. Backbone?
Controller.
Oh, Backbone. Yeah, them
they
too.
also wanted to buy,
they wanted to. For people that don't know, or new listeners, or people that just aren't aware, we decline all endemic advertising, meaning, and endemic versus non-endemic means endemic is the industry you're in, and non-endemic is everything else. So we'll promote your marijuana and your like your sleep things and all that. I love all that kind of shit, but we're not going to take money from companies we would cover. It's just
like Assassin's Creed. A few years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Actually, we had a sponsorship. This was the funniest thing. And we had a sponsorship offer from The Last of Us when the HBO show came out through our ad reps, and I was telling them, I'm like, we're not going to do this, but there's no way they know that this would be us, because they would not be doing this. And then lo and behold, it was withdrawn before we even declined it, because I think they made the connection that they don't like us, and they probably hired a third party agency to do it. And then when they sent all the information back, they're like, oh, no, you can't sell on that podcast. So they withdrew. So yeah, sometimes we get, I've said before, dude, we've turned down enough at this point to have made easy six figures, like into the six figures from gaming companies over the years. It's just, it feels kind of shady because we don't really need to do it, you know? And I don't like access journalism.
Right.
I just don't like it. It feels, I was an access journalist in some way. Like you don't really realize it when you're inside, but it's like, I understand why people look at that and it's like, that's a little weird. So they give you the game early and then you review it. They give you a free PlayStation. They give you free hardware. You become what is the PlayStation Playmaker? What the fuck is that? Like, I would be so embarrassed to be endorsed by PlayStation and then making content about PlayStation. That's so strange. It's so weird.
Well, think about it in terms of the Backbone. If we had accepted the Backbone sponsorship and then you got it and you sincerely really liked it, then imagine how gross it would feel to be like, I love the Backbone. It's great. By the way, here's an ad break. And it's advertising the Backbone.
Yeah,
it would have had no authenticity to it, but you can authentically say you like the Backbone because they didn't fucking pay you to say it.
And it's kind of funny in IGN, we used to say, and IGN especially, it didn't matter because we had a Chinese wall between us anyway with sales, but we would always say to the audience, oh, yeah, they sponsored this game. They sponsored us, but we gave the game like a 6 or we hated the game. And I'm like, that's in some way even fucking weirder. That you now journalistically don't even like the product, but will try to sell it to the same audience that you're telling the product is bad. I'm like, that's fucking even weirder. But you don't realize that at the time. You know, you're just trying to survive. And I get it. What the hell is this episode even about? Oh yeah, that's right.
Moments.
It's time for our yearly tradition. So we do the 2 interstitial episodes early. We're recording this it's December 9th, if you want us to break the fourth wall a little bit for you when we're recording this. And we record these episodes early again, so there's no breaks for people that still want to listen, and allows us to I think this kind of preparatory stuff is good for your brain in the sense that it allowed this episode, which is going to be our favorite PlayStation moments of 2023. It allows you to kind of go back and canvas and see what happened, maybe kind of secure some of that in your gray matter. And then the next episode we'll do, which will go live next week, which we'll record later today in real time, is our most anticipated games of 2024. And we needed to wait to record that until the Game Awards so we had a clearer picture of what was coming out. So I'm really looking forward to this. We each pick 5 moments. And just to the rules are very loose. It really doesn't matter. It's just a way to recollect and have fun. But my only thing is it doesn't have to be Sony or PlayStation related, like first or second party. It just needs to have something to do with something that can be played on PlayStation. I think that's a fairly reasonable barometer. So Nintendo news is probably not hugely important. Xbox news might be important depending on how you look at Game Pass and Activision and all that. But again, germane to PlayStation in that way, the only rule set. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'm asking you guys like we haven't done this 7 times. Okay. Dustin,
yes, sir.
You're my young, bright, bouncing baby boy, and you got your sweater on and you look handsome. You gonna go see Santa after this? At the mall?
Dude, fuck Santa. I'm not a Santa fan.
Oh, dear.
He's creepy.
Needlessly hostile, but all right.
Yeah. I didn't expect that. I didn't anticipate that sort of reaction.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm in a good mood, though. I just, you brought up that man, and I can't abide by it.
Yeah.
You can't abide by the harbinger of joy and cheer.
Do you think that any person that's played Santa Claus, like in a mall setting, filed disability because they fucked up their body in some way from it? They're like, oh, I was a Santa in the mall for 15 years. My back's all fucked up. I got 75% disability, something like that.
Yeah. Like the too many big boys sitting on their lap.
Right. It probably gets worse and worse. You got a bunch of Augustus Gloops running around now. You know,
right.
It wasn't like that back in the day.
Augustus Gloops.
I just saw the clip where Kevin sits on Michael's lap in the office.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I gotta rewatch. Isn't that there's the Christmas episode too where they like bring the 2 Asian girls back to the party and they don't know, he can't remember which one's which, so he like secretly puts a mark on the one's arm with Sharpie.
Dude,
I think that's a Christmas episode, maybe not.
I feel like with the shows like that, I wish I could watch them again, but I know that I would just want to watch like highlights because I remember enough of the show to like see an out of context clip and remember why it's funny in the context of the whole episode now. That's kind of what's happening. Like, I don't, at the time that we're recording this, there's like a big thread on Twitter about like post your favorite Family Guy clips. And I kind of forgot how funny Family Guy is out of context specifically. Like I would never sit and watch a Seinfeld, a Family Guy episode today, but some of those clips are fucking pretty preem.
I love Family Guy. I think Family Guy's hysterical. I'm way, probably a decade or more behind at this point. I don't think I've even seen it.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's even, I think it's still on, right? They still do it in their second iteration.
I think so, yeah.
But yeah, there's so many moments. Dude, one thing about The Office, and it will be one of those shows, and that show has permeated the younger generation. I was going to say penetrated the younger generation.
Oh.
I really had to hold off.
Oh,
it really has. Like, I know that like my nephew, like the people watch it that are younger, which I think is really cool. So they get all of that kind of humor and they're into it, which I think is funny. The one thing I remember about that, having watched it all the way through, is the first time I saw the fire alarm, like the fake fire alarm episode, I was like dying. I like couldn't breathe. I was laughing so hard. Like there's some moments in that show, just the first time, where if you don't know what happens and you're really watching it fresh, it's some of the greatest comedy ever, really. And I love that show. Yeah. That's a great show.
Absolutely.
All right.
Moments. Were you asking me about a moment?
Right.
Kick us off. Yeah.
Yeah. Kick us off with a moment.
Let me start off positive. I have a few positive, a few negative, but this one I really do feel like is a feel-good story. At least it made me feel good, and that is Hogwarts Legacy ended up being pretty awesome. And I know that not everyone feels that way, but this is a very personal one in that you can go back and listen to Sacred Symbols episodes from 2022, and you can hear me say that I had low confidence and that Avalanche is a team that made Cars, like the Cars tie-in movie game, and they've made Disney Infinity, which is cool, but it's not to this degree. And I had such low expectations for what it could be. And then obviously there is a huge controversy that happened around this game that isn't necessarily the focus. I guess that's part of it, of what I'm saying. But the fact that it came out and was, at the very least, I think, even if you're not a Harry Potter fan, it's fine. It's serviceable. But this game being a game designed for fans of the IP, it was a game that made me, this sounds so cheesy, but it made me feel like a kid again in a lot of ways, remembering reading those books and seeing those movies and the attention to detail that they put in. And like I said, I was so incredibly wrong about what Avalanche was able to accomplish. And while I admit it's not the most innovative open world game, that's okay because of the other things that it excels in. I kind of feel, I was thinking about this with that new Avatar game that, sure, it's in the 70s, but if you're an Avatar fan, that game probably is awesome. And there's millions of those people out there that love that IP. So I'm cool with stuff like this. And I'm just happy that it ended up being really good. And I was extremely happy to be very, very wrong.
Cool, man. Well said. Yeah, I'm happy for them too. Sales dominance, good critical acclaim, all in the face of profoundly unfair characterizations of the studio from a talent level, I think, and unfair characterizations, certainly, of the whole JK connection. I think there's like a 1A to this in some way, in my opinion, which is, I really think there are certain things that happen in different mediums where I think the media class, like the babbling class, the professional class in that sense, are just disabled and never taken, or it kind of lays bare their lack of effect. I think in 2016, and again, I'm not endorsing anyone. I'm just saying in 2016, when Trump was elected, that was the fenestration of media. It was like that. At that point, I was like, these guys don't have any power anymore. Now it's different. And that's why you see a lot of pushback and all of that. When you see a game like this, not only come out and bubble up or whatever, and then go away, but become the best selling game of the year until Call of Duty launched, is, I don't know, that's a pretty remarkable thing. So it didn't happen in a vacuum. It didn't happen with any goodwill at all. There were entire sites and groups and people and podcasts that wouldn't even touch it or talk about it. And if a lot of them did, it was in a completely negative and unfair light. I mean, that's remarkable shit. So
kind of like Sacred Symbols.
Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah. I don't care.
Yeah.
All right, well done. Hogwarts Legacy, and congratulations to Avalanche. We're happy for you guys over there. I hope a lot of you became rich off of this, and I imagine many of you did. Okay. And of course, the suits got rich at WB too. Richer. The rich always get richer. Chris, let's go to you, my friend, before we send you off to the front at Long Beach to hold off the invasion. Figured we'd get you here for your first selection.
It's a lot of traffic to get down to Long Beach. I don't know.
It is. Oh my God, what a pain in the ass. Saw a boxing match there once, and it took like fucking 8 years to get there.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
All right. Well, mine's a feel-good story too. I think it's Yuji Naka, the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, goes to jail for insider trading.
Love it.
I thought that was wild. I feel like we can't. You can't. I know this is best moments, but I don't think you can have a moments list of any kind of gaming related events this year without mentioning the fact that this happened, because this is just such a wild. It would be like finding out Miyamoto was like a serial killer. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like a very bizarre thing to hear, and it's just funny to me that it was insider trading and that he got caught, presumably because he was too slow. But I think that's definitely a highlight of the year for me. I couldn't believe it.
Deep irony. For people that don't remember or don't know what we're talking about, Yuji Naka, of course, the creator of Sonic, and he was actually the programmer on the original Phantasy Star. He was a longtime Sega dude. Here's what it says on Wikipedia, just as a quick synopsis. On November 17th, 2022, Naka was arrested by the Tokyo District Public Prosecutor's Office, which is in and of itself very funny, and charged with violating the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act of 2006. The public prosecutor's office accused him of insider trading. Naka bought 10,000 shares of the developer Aiming before its game Dragon Quest Tact was announced to the public. 2 other former Square Enix employees were also arrested, alleged to have bought 162,000 shares between December 2019 and February 2020 for approximately 47.2 million yen, which is about $5. I'm only kidding.
Wait, so the law that they got him in was established in 2006, it says?
Yeah, the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act is what it's called.
That's a rough year for Sonic then.
Oh, man. My goodness. Really? I know. Well said. And then on December 7th, Naka was arrested again, accused of having purchased 144.7 million yen of shares of the developer A-Team before their game Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier was announced. He was later indicted on insider trading charges by the Tokyo District Public Prosecutor's Office. Naka admitted his guilt in March 2023. On June 1st, prosecutors asked for a sentence of 2.5 years in prison and a combined fine of 172.5 million yen. Can you look up how much that is, Dustin? 172.5 million. On July 7th, the Tokyo District Court judge gave Naka a sentence of 2 years and 6 months in prison, suspended for 4 years. The judge ordered Naka to forfeit 171 million yen and pay a fine of 2 million yen.
Yeah.
2 million would be like, what, 20,000? Is that right?
You said 172.5 million yen.
Yep.
Okay, Google $1,190,763. So just over $1 million.
Yeah, not bad. So it sounds like his prison time was his sentence was suspended because he would have had to really go fast if he was in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if Mike is here, but he would become the belle of the ball, unfortunately.
The belle of the ball.
It just, I don't know if it's because my phone is listening to me and we had this conversation about prison or something. And then this YouTube recommendation came up with this guy last night where it was 10 tips for going to prison. He was like a prisoner for like 12 years. And I was just listening to this thing while I was playing Power Wash Simulator. Pretty dark experience. You know?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Don't snitch, clean up after yourself, etc. I mean, that's obvious. Dustin would be a neo-Nazi in like 2 seconds if he went to jail. It's the only way he would survive.
I got to just look as tough as possible. You know, how do you do that in prison? Maybe that's it.
Dude, it's so funny. I was watching a video very similar to that, and I remember a very specific story where some guy was talking about how like you just keep your eyes to yourself in the stalls or like in the like as far as like the bathroom stuff. If you glance at somebody by accident while they're using the bathroom, you're going to die at lunch, probably.
Right. Yeah, just don't even curiously let your eyes wander.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Yuji Naka, R.I.P. You're alive, and I hope you find peace. Maybe he'll come back. I wonder if he'll make some sort of comeback. I don't know how Japanese society looks at white collar crime like that. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll like reverse draw distance out of his cell. Will just fade away as the cops come close.
Some sort of super villainy. Sacred Symbols is sponsored by Fume, a new positive habit that can replace an older harmful one. Learn more for yourself right now at tryfume.com/sacred, that's F-U-M. And while you're there, get 10% off your very own Fume Journey Pack. In the world of leisure, activities fall on a spectrum of health that we're known to widely explore, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But what if I told you that a certain bad habit can be easily one-upped by a passive and all-natural one? Fume is a flavored air device that users fill with flavored and scented cylinders called cores. These cores are replaceable by design and come in a wide variety of flavors to appeal to your senses, from maple pepper and white cranberry to raspberry lemon or sparkling grapefruit, or my personal favorite, orange vanilla. But here's what I really love about Fume. It doesn't use any electricity. That's right, it's entirely analog. That's a pretty remarkable feat in a world full of interconnected and always-on gizmos. But Fume is so simple and so natural that you can't even charge it. So put away your USB-C cables and fear not. Great to use for cessation of a very specific bad habit, or merely fun to utilize on a whim like I do. I think you'll find Fume exactly how I did. Unique, effective, and frankly an idea so good that I'm sorry I didn't think of it myself. How did it take so long for someone to come up with something so useful and appealing to so many people? It's a valid question to ask as you breathe through your Fume, an artfully made and sturdy implement constructed of fine wood and metal. Will you give Fume a try? You'll be glad you did. It's time to start the holidays off right with the good habit by going to tryfume.com/sacred. That's tryfum.com/sacred, and getting the Journey Pack today. Fume is giving Sacred Symbols listeners 10% off when they use the code SACRED to help making starting the good habit that much easier. Again, that's tryfume.com/sacred to begin your flavored air journey today. Sacred Symbols is sponsored by MeUndies, the online megastore where comfort reigns supreme. Learn more now at MeUndies.com/sacred and get 20% off your first order plus free shipping on their entire selection of goods from shirts to socks and from sweatpants to PJs and beyond. So it's not exactly a secret that I basically live my entire life in sweatpants, t-shirts, and underwear, though it's also true that I don't sleep with underwear on at all, and frankly, that's a story for an entirely different time. Maybe another ad sometime down the road. For now, let me focus on the items I do wear, including MeUndies' wonderful boxers and briefs, which I've worn for around a decade now, since MeUndies first became a sponsor of one of my shows. It was then that I learned about the wonders of shopping online for your various unmentionables that you may be more accustomed to buying in a brick-and-mortar store if anyone even goes to those anymore. I wouldn't know as I rarely leave my house because I refuse to get dressed. So you can imagine that a locale like MeUndies would be especially vital for a person like myself. Their array of not only underwear, but shirts, socks, and pants, and so on and so forth is expansive. And if you're listening to this and you're a woman, you'll be pleased to know that MeUndies has you covered too. Durable, comfortable, and size to fit. I've had some pairs of MeUndies underwear for literally years on end, and they're still going strong. With versatile styles, breathable fabrics, and a problem-free philosophy that stresses easy returns, you have nothing to risk by trying MeUndies for yourself. Knock out your holiday shopping today and get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/sacred. That's MEUNDIES.com/SACRED. Again, that's MeUndies.com/sacred for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. All right, since we have such positive stories of Hogwarts Legacy and Yuji Naka, I thought I would also start with a positive here before we get into more of the conspicuous and strange and even bad things that have happened this year. And I'll just kind of generally say this. PlayStation 5's complete dominance is a story of 2023. It's fucking killing. Just killing.
Mm-hmm.
And we say on this show, so the PlayStation podcast, of course, we say on this show that we're not entirely sure if Sony even has much to do with it, or if it's just this cultural phenomenon, and that maybe they do have something to do with that. I mean, they obviously established it, but this thing that just has a runaway effect, and whatever they make, they sell. And they're in this unusual arc where they're basically selling more units in year 3 and into year 4 than they were year 1 and 2, which doesn't really make any sense. And that's usually not the way things necessarily fall, and a lot of it was supply constraints. So the fact that they're going to reach, I'm sure they'll get the press release by Christmas, or maybe during the holidays, or maybe a little bit after, about 50 million sold. That's pretty crazy, because we were wondering how this thing would do it all, and it looked like a much more competitive marketplace than it was last time around. And so you have to give them their credit where credit is due, I guess, in this regard. I mean, there's just no doubt that they figured this out, and it's working out great for them. I just think the unfortunate reality for them is that they need to figure out more first and second party ways to take advantage of this situation because they're not running enough revenue to have massive profit margins, which they could. They have good profit margins, but they're not great. Their competitors have better profit margins, and that doesn't really matter to us here, but it does matter about their ability to spend profit on new products, which is why we should want their games as a service to be good so that they can figure this out and dump that money back into the things we really care about, which I think they realize is necessary, but that's a whole nother story. So I just wanted to shout out PlayStation 5's dominance this year. I just think year 3, pretty fucking good. Now, from a game perspective, maybe unrivaled, but again, nothing to do with them. As I've said before, Spider-Man, you remove Spider-Man from that, and I don't think it really even matters as far as the quality of that this year provided.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to come out stronger with first and second party. I think we're going to see a lot. We're not. I don't think we are going to see major second party presence the first quarter between Final Fantasy and third party Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and we're going to have Helldivers, and we're going to have Rise of the Ronin, and so on and so forth. So anyway, shout out to PS5, shout out to Sony. Lots to beat you up about, no doubt. We'll get there, but you can't deny this unrivaled success story in terms of its trajectory. Now that we're in the second quarter of PS5's monthly active users being higher than PS4, now we're on that rocket trajectory, I think, in terms of them really saying we can let go a little bit of the last gen and move forward. And that's the only thing that held them back. That's why I noted in the last episode of Sacred Symbols, or 2 episodes ago, it would have been by the time people hear this, in that Nikkei Asia article, where they said they were talking a little bit about trajectories of the different products and how many parts go into them and all of the rest, and they're just noting that they just need a more active presence, to keep it going, pedal down. All right, let's go back to you, Dustin. Right?
Yeah,
you're up. Okay, so this is time for your second moment.
It's too positive around here. Let's take it down a notch.
Yeah, please. This is Sacred Symbols. Come on, my friend.
Yeah. My next moment to look back on is PlayStation VR 2 and how it failed to create basically any momentum around the platform, the peripheral, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's kind of both. But this is something I was and still do feel some excitement about with PlayStation VR 2. There was a lot of awesome tech behind it, the HDR screens, the new controllers, the inside-out tracking. There's a lot to love about the device. And even particularly at launch, there was a lot of really awesome software. I remember talking about playing Gran Turismo 7 with the wheel and how that was a revolutionary experience for me with racing games and something that I really, really got into. And other titles too, like Resident Evil 7 VR mode that came out that was really great. And even while I wasn't into it, I still found Call of the Mountain to be an impressive product overall in terms of its visuals and the climbing mechanics and stuff like that. Now, we just talked, I guess this would have been 2 weeks ago on Sacred Symbols by the time you're hearing this, about PlayStation VR. And we've gotten some pushback about how there is lots to play on it. And I totally agree with that. There's a lot out there. There's probably a lot of awesome stuff on there too. We brought up Synapse multiple times as a game that's supposed to be really awesome on PlayStation VR 2. There's Arizona Sunshine 2, and now there's Resident Evil 4 VR mode, which I made sure my controllers were charged this morning so I could check it out later today. So there is a lot to play on there, but it almost doesn't matter. We're looking at this from, an analytical perspective of the product and how it's doing in the market, and there is no hype behind this product. Or at least it feels like it, that there's really nothing going on. And honestly, too, the other problem is that we don't really even know how Sony feels about it because there isn't really any kind of roadmap or things to come. And it might be one thing with PlayStation 5 that they can be quiet because it's such a big platform and people have a lot of trust in that platform. And we might not like it, but it's okay. They're going to do just fine with third-party support. PSVR 2 is not that way. People need some assurance because they've seen how Sony has dropped things in the past. And right now there is, like I said, there's a lot to play there. And for people that have it and are into it, they may be very satisfied. That's great. But doesn't seem to be getting the install base necessary, I think, for a long-term solution or a long-term viability for it. So I'll be curious to see, in 2024, if we see some kind of second strike with PlayStation VR 2 or additional marketing, first party, even second party support, or even just using the IP to some degree to try to generate some more interest around it. But right now, I mean, PSVR 2 is a big question mark in my mind.
Sorry, I was muted. I was looking up the best sellers in video game consoles and accessories on Amazon, and it's not anywhere in the top 100 things being sold. It's a bunch of consoles, headsets, and controllers, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I agree. I am going to spend time with it this holiday season. That's something I really would like to be intentional about if I can. All right, Chris, let's move it over to you for your second moment.
Yeah, so my second moment, I think, is, man, I have a big list, and I'm kind of alternating what order I go in as we record. But I think this one sticks out to me. It's calling my name right now. The fact that, I mean, this is independent of PlayStation, I guess, but Baldur's Gate 3's insane success, and the fact that it was essentially an accidental PS5 exclusive for a really, really long time was probably like a huge, completely, just this huge, completely accidental boon to an already dominating PS5 year that, I don't know, I think that just the fact that happened at all in the way that it happened was just so fortuitous for Sony that I can't help but look at it as if, like, wow, they really stumbled into just pure gold here by accident, just because the Series S wasn't strong.
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy.
It's very well said. Did you guys see the thing where they meant to announce the Xbox version on stage and then they forgot at the Game Awards, which is very, very funny.
Yeah. Chris, I also had this on my list. I have extras, so I'm good. But I just got to say, what I thought was so interesting too about Baldur's Gate 3 is that it was a game of its genre that's so good that it created fans of that type of game. People,
yeah.
I mean, for me, I don't like CRPG games overall, but I became a massive, massive fan of Baldur's Gate 3 just because of what it did and the different ways that it brought people into that genre and made it make sense was really cool. The other thing too, you mentioned about the PlayStation 4 version or the PlayStation 5 version being the exclusive console version just kind of on accident. I also remember how they pushed the release date of the PC version up a month to get it not at the same time as Starfield. And man, I think that was probably one of the best decisions ever, because a lot of people just would have thought, oh, even if it is a 9 out of 10, I want to play Starfield right now because that's something I know instead of more of an unknown.
Oh, yeah.
And
it hurt Starfield's optics, I think, a lot, actually, ultimately.
Yes, big time. So just that's another really good feel good story for Larian, who wanted to make that game for a decade, maybe. I'm trying to remember when I talked to Locke that they made the Divinity games to try to prove themselves to Wizards of the Coast to make Baldur's Gate 3. And eventually they gave him the green light, and then huge success.
All right. Let's see. That leaves it to me, I guess?
It does.
Let me see here. I mean, there's a few. God, there's a lot. I have a lot too. All right. I guess I'll just get this out there. I think Jim Ryan's retirement's a huge story. And I think it's an evolving one, even as we record this. Like, we might even have just a fraction more clarity by the time this goes live in a couple of weeks than we do now about how we feel about this. I was saying I don't know if it was on Constellation with Jaffe or something, where I was saying my impression of what's going on with him is evolving by the day. And it's not even necessarily getting worse and worse and worse. It's just getting clearer and clearer what I think is maybe going on over there. And it's strange to see a dichotomy drawn between a console doing so well and a company doing so well and a brand doing so well, and then no games, this unusual and very dangerous, but I think necessary bet on games as a service that is making a lot of people annoyed. The loss of some really significant talent from Media Molecule, Santa Monica Studio, Naughty Dog, Bend. Everyone's lost people. Insomniac's really the only team that seems like they really haven't lost anyone. And I imagine that's going to change soon too, on the heels of Spider-Man 2, where people are just going to get a lot of money thrown at them. Remember, it takes a lot of money to take someone like Shannon Studstill away from Santa Monica Studio and bring her to Google to work on Stadia. I mean, that's serious money, and no one's going to say no to that. So I'm not begrudging anyone that, but the inability to retain your talent and the miscalculation with Bungie, which I think is its own story that we'll probably get to at some point in this conversation. So I'll leave it to its own. It's either that Jim Ryan was very wise and smart in placing things in the press over the years that made it easy for them to push him out. And that's like a serendipitous thing that they figured out. And what I mean by that is he's always been on the record as saying that he doesn't really like the grind and that he doesn't like the travel. Being the CEO of PlayStation, which is an international brand, means that he spends, I think, a week in the UK, then a week in the US, then a week in Japan, then a week in the UK, then a week in the US, and a week in Japan. And I think even if you're flying in the finest accommodations, which he is, that would drive me insane. That would drive me fucking insane. Yeah. And so there is that. And so you look at it and say, like, I get it. I wouldn't want to do that either. And that's so crazy that they even make you do that in this era where you can they can send, if you want to play a game, they can send you builds. If you want to talk to the team, you can Zoom with them. Like, you don't really need to be on the ground like that. And that's a real grind. But there's this other part of it in the mid and long term. So in the short term, it's like, oh yeah, I get that. And I think everyone understands that. I wouldn't have never lasted as long as he did doing that. And there's that. But then of course there's just this, I don't know. There's something weird behind the scenes in the mid and long term going on here. I don't feel not confident. I'm just wondering why they aren't being more forthcoming. I'm kind of in an unknown gray area with their games as a service, but I believe fully and even know, as we all do, but we all in the industry, I guess, know and hear different things, is like the big single player stuff is definitely coming. I mean, it's going to be huge. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun from both franchises we know and franchises that we've never heard of. I mean, that's obvious, but there's a lot of unknown stuff and they're being awfully silent about it, which maybe in and of itself is its own story. But yeah, Jim Ryan's retirement is, I understand when it happened, I was like, I don't really read this as being very conspicuous. As time has gone on, I'm like, maybe there's something here. Maybe they're just kind of agreeing to part ways and be like, no, it is, you can retire, like retire, get it? And there could be an element of that. So I think that this is something to keep an eye on. And we don't know who's going to take over. We know it's going to be the Hiroki Totoki Literature Club in a short-term basis beginning April 1st, 2024. But again, as CFO of Sony Corp, I would argue, and I've had some bit different back and forth with people behind the scenes who have expressed both opinions, and I've appreciated that, where it's like, that seems like a demotion to me. Some people say it is, some people say it isn't. In other words, CFO of Sony to CEO of PlayStation. I don't know. All right, so I wanted to throw that out there. Anything to say about that before we move on? All right, very good. That's it. You've had your chance. Who's next? Dustin?
Me. It's me. I'm next. Okay, 2023 proved that adaptations are here to stay and can be good. So 2023 was not the year that we saw the first breakout video game adaptations. We always have some every few years, and we saw a few promising examples before this year. We saw Uncharted, Sonic. I guess you could argue, at least from a commercial perspective, I've not seen it, so I don't know if it's any good. But 2023,
what does your heart tell you
about? I don't know, man. I kind of want to see Jim Carrey in that movie. Honestly, that's kind of the appealing part.
Yeah,
to me, is him as Robotnik. But so 2023, we had quite a few adaptations and some very big ones. These are the nominations for the Game Awards, where I think kind of the big summary of Castlevania Nocturne, Twisted Metal, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Gran Turismo, dude. Gran Turismo, dude. Awesome. Gran Turismo 2. Let's go. I would watch that.
You're off my perch.
Gran Turismo, and of course, the winner of the category, The Last of Us. And so it's not just Sony that's getting in on this with PlayStation Productions. They're getting, we see Nintendo as well. We just got an announcement of the Zelda movie. We got confirmation back on Sony's side that Twisted Metal Season 2 is coming. Last of Us Season 2 will start filming next year. So, like I said, these adaptations have been around for a while. And in 2022, I think that was when Uncharted was, we started to get a glimpse like, hey, maybe this isn't going to be as bad as we thought. Maybe there actually is some potential here. And then this year with The Last of Us in particular, it really showed, hey, this actually can be pretty fucking awesome. And so really for now, and I know this isn't our looking forward episode, but with stuff on the horizon like the John Wick director making Ghost of Tsushima, I'm super excited for that. I think that has huge potential to be really, really awesome. So yeah, Sony cements itself as they've always been a multimedia company. I should say PlayStation cemented itself as a multimedia company.
Yeah, well said. And excited to see more. 2025, probably for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But maybe we'll see some stuff this year. I don't know. All right. Chris, what's up for you? Number 3.
Man, so many. I'm going to go with this just because I feel like this is a generally kind of interesting coincidence. And it could be just that it sticks out specifically because of the juxtaposition, but I'm going to put the fact that 2023 was an uncharacteristically great year for really high quality games, and simultaneously we had Lord of Ring Gollum and Kong whatever the fuck and Walking Dead Destinies, and these really, even for, outside of the PlayStation space, even just really big first party games like Redfall turning out completely abysmally. I think it's fascinating that we got specifically Walking Dead Destinies, Kong, and Gollum all in the same year, because they're just so uniquely terrible. And especially the fact that Lord of Rings Gollum wrote their apology post with ChatGPT is really amazing. Like I love everything surrounding Lord of Ring Gollum, both like
I love that we call it that. I love that we just earnestly call it that. Like that's always going to be its name.
That is what that's what they said. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that game by itself, obviously it's surrounded by a number of other things like subpar releases, but just the story of that game and the apology was just such a standout moment for me, because I just couldn't. It just stuck out so deeply, even at that point early in the year where we weren't even sure how the rest of the year was going to turn out. Just the quality disparity.
It's good stuff. Yeah, I wrote it in my notes here as the highs and the lows.
Yeah,
because I like to write a little list here, so when I write the description, I can kind of pull off of it and not be like, "What the hell did we just talk about?" Because I'm not gonna remember.
The thing about Lord of Ring Gollum, I think that's particularly funny thinking back, is that we get a lot of apologies for broken games, right? But that apology was like, hey, it sucks. Sorry that it sucks. Sorry we sold you something that's bad.
Yeah.
And that's a little different,
And a robot did it.
Oh yeah, ChatGPT.
That's crazy.
It's good stuff, man. Love it.
We're sorry. I always think about that South Park clip. We're sorry. Yeah. The BB oil spill guys.
You're right on. This is a good observation of observing that this is an unusually good year with an unusually dark kind of complexion in some of the releases, like unusually bad releases. All right. Let me see here. It's up to me. I guess I'll just, since we were talking about it a little bit before, we might as well just connect the dots here. I don't know exactly how I would position this, but there's like the Bungie mystery, let's call it. I have so many questions about this deal now, from how it went down to the kind of how quickly it went down. What did discovery of documents look like? How did you study, and what did you know, and what did you assume? Because it seems like, and I just said this over and over again, at least in the short term, Sony bought they didn't intend on buying a company that was going to lose so much revenue. They didn't intend to buy a company that was going to have to lay off 10% of its fucking staff. They bought the company for its staff. So something is missing. Something's off here. Either Destiny 2 has been mischaracterized as something that has longer legs and more of a profit potential and whatever than was indicated, or Sony just way overpaid and bought a lemon from another perspective, or they're willing to take the bullet, bite the bullet in the short term to get to the mid and long term when we'll get a Destiny refresh and we'll get, a Marathon and maybe another product and things will kind of start hitting for them again. And so they just want patience. But I just refuse to believe that all is well here. And you can't help but connect those dots to the games as a service dot, to the Jim Ryan retiring dot, to the factions dot, to all of the rest. There is some connection here. And is it this could look really dramatic in hindsight. Like, I don't know. I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but it's like we can look back at this Bungie thing and be like, this purchase did very little potentially and knocked all of these pins down actually when it happened. Like, it was totally an unforced error that they didn't have to do. They spent all this money, and $3 billion, $4 billion. This is a lot of money for Sony, and of cash and options and bonuses, and come on, man. So I'm disappointed just because, like I've said, I've understood Jim Ryan's strategy, and I think that it's a good one. And I think it's a good one. And that Sony felt it was a good one in the moment because the board signed off on it. Everyone bought in on this thing. It wasn't like he was like the only person saying and doing and wanting this, like this move towards capitalizing on games as a service and trying to get into mobile and all that stuff. But there's no doubt that maybe there was a better way to try to do it, because I tried to forgive them, or not forgive them, but what do you make forgiveness, but to understand, like, why did you do this? Because I've long made the case, buy teams that and I think this situation makes the argument so much stronger than it already was, which is you didn't know enough. You went and bit off more than you can chew, and now you're going to have to come in and save it. And the ironic thing, and this is the fucking craziest part, as we noted on the show a couple of weeks ago, is you bought them for their talent. You bought them for their culture. You bought them so they can help you get something done. And now you have to go in and save them. This is that's an albatross now. And now you're going to take over their board? So what is the point of even having them?
Yeah.
You wanted them. And so something happened. Someone didn't do their homework. Something went wrong. Some calculation was wrong. Some projection was wrong. It's catastrophic. I think it's like a catastrophic misstep. And I don't know why people aren't really talking about it more. PlayStation does deserve scorn for this. Maybe in the mid and long term, we'll look at, I'm not going to bring you guys into this. I'll look stupid because it's like, look, Marathon's like the biggest fucking game in the world. But I'm like, I don't know, dude. It seems a little chaotic over there. And you ingested that voluntarily, and you would have known better if you had worked with them in a deliberate fashion first. And I'm not saying that they weren't involved with them since Destiny, especially because they were, and they were publishing partners or, marketing partners and all that, but that's not the same as making a game together. And that is why it is so unsafe to get in bed with a studio that you're just not familiar with in an intimate way. And that's why I think the greatest risk still lies with the Havens and the Firewalks of the world, because that was kind of like dating them and then buying them, but you didn't really marry them. You didn't like get engaged. You didn't release any products. It wasn't a Sucker Punch or an Insomniac or whatever, Naughty Dog. This just reinforces that whole premise for me, that their best way forward is to culturally stay consistent and to try to make a new way of doing games as a service, or a new culture for games as a service, instead of going and trying to buy someone else's. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, go ahead.
Colin, what do you think too about we had all those rumors or leaks, whatever you want to say, about Bungie's authority and influence over the live service aspect, particularly in terms of factions and Naughty Dog?
Yeah, it's a problem, especially because, as we noted on the show, they had a strategy. Whether or not it was going to work, they hired the dude who monetized Fortnite from Epic, brought him to Naughty Dog. He recently left Naughty Dog, so clearly there was a power struggle of some sort. Or someone was right and someone was wrong in terms of the way they were going to go forward, and things weren't lining up. It's like you don't even trust in the talent you originally brought in. And then there's Jaffe's the one who said it on Twitter, and he was right. It's like, what Naughty Dog should maybe be teaching Bungie some stuff about how to be a cohesive team that makes great products and doesn't fucking melt down or make a, and that is a cultural problem. They've forced this on their own studios. And I would wonder about that. I don't, again, not being in a journalistic role anymore and kind of just having some friends and just talking about other things. I don't poke and prod and be like, so what do you think about, when I talk to someone over there, what do you think about this? But I am curious if that is even anything to them at all, because I think it would be something. You feel that tension with Bethesda and Microsoft. I mean, it's obvious. Like, look what's going on with fucking Blade. They won't even say if it's an Xbox game. Like, not everyone is like on the same page at these different companies, but certainly here, this is being drafted. This is it being in a different volume entirely, I think. And they better hope that this games as a service thing works out and that there's some sort of tether to Bungie making it work. Or this is going to be looked at as a massive blunder. They spent more on this team than every acquisition combined that they made before that. I don't think people realize that.
Yeah.
Insomniac for $229 million. Bungie for 15 times that. I don't know. This will come to bear one way or the other in the coming years.
Yeah.
And the final shape, I think a lot of it rests on that. But I was reading, Chris, too, that in that IGN article that we cited, that they fully expect that when that comes out, they will lay off a bunch of people. Like after that's done, that's just kind of in the cards regardless. And I'm like, that's kind of a pretty dire thing, because then you're not really getting their best work either.
Yeah. That's another thing too. It's, I mean, I think it was already delayed, right? I think the final shape was delayed even later. And the official statement was, oh, we want more polish. And it's like, no, I mean, that might be true, but it's also obvious why it would be delayed if you just laid off 10% of your workforce. I mean, like, duh. That's the reason why it's delayed. I don't think it really has that much to do with polish, but yeah, I think, I don't know. I think Marathon might be the thing they're looking at, but that remains to be seen. That's completely unproven. That's new IP. I think it would be, just based on their output, I feel like it would be good, but we'll see.
All right. Dustin, back to you for your, what is this, fourth? Right.
Yeah. So this one is the PlayStation Portal, the Slim, and the earbuds. The leaks were real. And so this is mostly through Tom Henderson and Insider Gaming is when these leaks came out that the PlayStation Slim was coming and it was going to have a detachable disk drive. They were coming out with a new portable device that involved streaming, and then the earbuds too. And all of that ended up coming true, which was really cool. But the flip side of this story is that that's not the only thing that was leaked, not only by Tom Henderson, but through some of our own people, with Moore's Law is Dead talking about the PlayStation 5 Pro. And so, yeah, that was also part of leaks, is that a PlayStation 5 Pro is coming. And what was, I feel like, an exciting moment of 2023, not only seeing these things come true, but with them coming true, just basically the confirmation that PlayStation 5 Pro is coming next year. I certainly believe it 100%. I mean, I guess it could not happen. Plans change. We see that stuff happen. But as it stands right now, it is going to be really, really interesting when Microsoft has come out and said, we're not doing a Pro console for the Series X. The Series X, I think they said the Series X is the Pro console, and Series S is the regular one, and that's just stupid. Whoever said that, but yeah, I'm so excited to see what this device does for us. Whether it's a more consistent 4K 60, better ray tracing, stuff like that. I am a hardware nerd. I love buying new toys. I'm currently resisting buying the Steam Deck OLED just because I love hardware. And so I am all for a mid-generation upgrade. I got the PS4 Pro and loved it. It forced me to upgrade to a 4K TV, but I love it, dude. I love HDR. I love high resolutions. I love high frame rates. So bring on the PS5 Pro.
Am I the only one who really hopes it looks different?
Like the get rid of the vaginal shape.
Yeah, just I don't know. The Slim looking very similar, obviously a little bit smaller with that line across it just to accommodate for the detachable disk drive. Makes sense to me, but I'm kind of hoping. I don't know. Part of the fun of these new machines is getting a new look. I think it's not the most important thing, but it's definitely like the PS3 Slim. I thought was so good looking as a machine. Xbox 360 Slim as well, and I feel generally like we've got like this industry's pretty good at doing that. Generally, the Pro model or the new model is pretty good up until a point. That Grill PS3 was a little suspect.
Yeah, that was the revision, which was like, it was beat.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
Yeah,
but generally, there's at least one cool refresh, and I hope. I don't know. I'm kind of hoping for something that doesn't look so fucking garish.
Maybe they'll put two of them together like they did with the PS4 Pro, which I thought was a pretty nice look. But yeah, I agree. I would hope so as well. It's going to be aimed more at your boutique level consumer anyway. I've long said that, and I look at them every day in my fucking living room because they're all next to each other. The Switch, the Xbox Series X, and the PS5. It's like the Xbox Series X is a really great looking console, in my opinion. Like that's exactly what a console should look like. IMO is just something muted and symmetrical and clean, and not this horrible. Like I don't know where they get off making almost a machine that looks like this compared to how beautiful the PS2 was. Like what the entire idea of the PS2 was to fit in and look like it belonged where it was going. And I think that it's like, why? And PS4 was the same. It's like, why do you get away from that? I don't know. So I agree. And I suspect that they'll have to move some things around, but I hope that what I do hope is that they don't have to sell another thing to keep it balanced, like a little clip that costs $30 or something. Cause that's preposterous, completely preposterous. And I got to say too, and I've not played with it in person. I've not seen it in person, so I cannot speak to it in person. The new PS5 model looks a little budget. Like it
does.
Like it just
totally Wish.com-ish.
Yeah. Like there's something not right about it. It looks mega cheap. Like are they preempting a contrast with this new machine where the PS5 Pro, where one will look like the very, very good machine and the other one just looks like something you buy in fucking Walgreens? Because that's kind of how it looks in some of these videos.
Yeah, it looks like you'd find it in the pharmacy section. It's weird that I do agree though. Like as much as I don't like the look of the PS5, I do think it looks like materially it looks expensive. Like it doesn't look cheap. But yeah, I haven't seen one of these Slims in person, but they don't look amazing.
There's something about the front face that looks fake. Like it looks like a bootleg.
Yeah, it totally looks like a bootleg. Yeah.
I don't know what that's very weird because Sony is definitely the exact opposite typically with not only game consoles, but everything. They're all about that look and feel. That they're like masters of that. How do you miss so badly? How much money do you have to extract out of this machine in order to cut prices that you have to make that no one's like, does this really look like a Sony product? And everyone's like, yeah, ship it. It's only the most important thing we sell right now.
Yeah.
All right. I agree with you, by the way, your assessment, Dustin, completely. That these leaks indicate that the Pro is absolutely coming. That's why I talk about it so confidently, because he was right. Like he was right about all of this stuff. So why wouldn't he have been right about the Pro? And I'm also going to be all over it. What do we think it's going to cost? And what do we think it's going to be able to do, I think, is the bigger question. Because I think the jump is going to be pretty big. And I would like to imagine that they'll keep the price pretty low. I'm thinking like, what would be like 600, something like that?
Yeah. $599.
Yeah.
Dude, it's console pricing is so interesting to me, especially when you consider everyone like going out of their way, standing in line, going nuts to try to buy graphics cards that cost over $1,000 for one part. And then if PS5 Pro ends up being $600, everyone's going to lose their fucking mind because it's $100 more. Dude, I think I would totally sign up if they said, hey, it's PS5 Pro. It's fucking awesome. It's going to be 4K, 60, ray tracing. It's going to do everything you want it to do and more. It's amazing. It's $799. Fuck yeah. Sign me up. If it truly is PC quality parts in a lot of ways, obviously they're going to have to downscale in some degree. I'm not saying it's going to be the same as a $1,500 PC, but if they really pushed it with the price in order to put some awesome components in there, I think that'd be sick. And dude, people are spending so much on Steam Decks, and that's no problem.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's weird.
I also wonder, and this is strange, but because it probably doesn't matter at all, but is there bad juju with the $600 price point? I wonder, if I were at a company, I'd look at things like that, like the mysticism behind a lot of that stuff. It's like, I don't know if we want to go with that price again. It's not only begging bad marketing and bad comparisons, but I don't think it's a good idea to charge specifically $599 for anything we sell ever again. Of course, this is a PlayStation 3 reference for people that don't know, but yeah, I expect it to be maybe even more expensive too, like you said, and I would gladly pay it. Now, we're people of some means, and I understand that that's not everyone out there, but I also think it's not going to be necessarily positioned for everyone. And I didn't have a PS4 Pro for 2 years after it came out, and I was perfectly happy with my PS4. I didn't really even care about the PS4 Pro. I just bought it because that was the PS4 that was available when I went and bought a new one. And I became a believer after that. And it's I wonder how this will make the comparison between PlayStation and Xbox. If this becomes true, then there'll be like a low scale. If you put the circles as a Venn diagram, the middle would be the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. And then on the weaker end would be the S. And then on the stronger end would be a PS5 Pro. And this creates an interesting development and rollout dynamic for your games. Like, what are you aiming for? Who's playing on what? I don't know. It's going to be cool. I'm excited about it. I'll pay whatever because I'm super excited about it too. I can't wait for it to be on PlayStation. I can't wait for them to say something about it. You imagine they're not going to say something about it for as long as possible because you don't want to stop selling PS5s for any reason. So you keep it as close to your vest as possible. That's why people were like, why didn't they ever acknowledge the Slim? I'm like, are you stupid? Like, they have to sell these other fucking consoles. They don't want you to be waiting for the one. The PS3 Slim leaking was like the worst thing that happened to them. Although, as we noted, Dustin, people that were wise enough to go and buy the Fats anyway ended up reaping the reward in the end because of those old consoles people wanted. Okay. Chris, this brings us to you. This will be your fourth one.
My fourth one. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, this was kind of it's an interesting one. In the spirit of my list being dire or sad.
It's very sad.
Unity destroying their credibility with their fee debacle was such a wild thing to see. And especially because they walked it back so quickly afterwards to probably very not much avail. I noticed during the Game Awards too, like there were some games that were like made with Unity, and I bet those were like, oh well, these were too far in to really change at that point. But that's all I think about now when I see that logo. When I see Unity, I think of like, oh yeah, that's that engine that probably fucked up a lot of their relationships with the people who use it, and that's a rough reputation. Granted, it's a very niche reputation. Most people consuming the Game Awards won't know that, or won't be privy to that necessarily. But that was a pretty wild thing that kind of came and went in like a really short amount of time, and was enacted and then unenacted in like a really short amount of time. And just fascinating that a company like that could misread something so obvious, even if people were kind of jumping the gun on certain criticisms. Ultimately, what was there was, questionable to say the least.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's ongoing too, because wasn't there a store? We didn't talk about it on the show, but like they divested right from Weta or whatever, that Weta Workshop or Weta Workshop, and
I think so.
Which they just bought like the year before. Someone has completely. This is another situation. Someone has, because I don't think that they're down, like their financial situation is necessarily precipitated by what happened with Unity and like turning people off. I think this was happening. Like that's why they were urgently trying to make changes. There was something going wrong financially behind the scenes. And so they way overshot and are already divesting from things they bought, very Embracer like. And so it's ongoing, and I feel bad because a lot of people have lost their jobs over there. They employ an extraordinary number of people. I have no idea how they even employ thousands of people. And that seems like a lot. Okay. Well, let's get this on the board. The finalization of the Activision purchase from Microsoft. I think this is a huge story for Sony for a lot of different reasons. I think the angle I want to explore here, though, is this, from discovery and all the leaks through the various hearings around the world in different venues, to interviews given on various platforms, it's never been more obvious, let's say, let me put it this way. It's never been more obvious that Xbox and PlayStation are going to start interacting more. And now this is inevitable because of Call of Duty and all the other stuff. But getting a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, including just a few weeks ago with Tim Stewart and Phil Spencer confusion about PlayStation and Game Pass and them clearly just not being on the same page. And by the way, they're clearly talking about it behind the scenes. I mean, this didn't just come out of the air. And I think people are being like, he said there are no plans. And I'm like, yeah, dude. But there was no, disappointingly, and I love Jez, but like, it's like, why didn't you follow up? I would have had a million questions to follow up with that. When he answered, oh, we have no plans for that. It's like, so why did your CFO say that? There was like not even that. Like, what are the discussions behind the scenes that bring this possibility up in explicit terms? It's not an accident. So what's that all about? And the answer would probably be something like, well, we game everything out. We strategize about all sorts of different things behind the scenes, but like make them answer the question. So I was a little bit disappointed in that, and all due respect, because I do love Jez. I think he's great. But that was a little disappointing because they just let him off the hook, and it's like, no. What's going on here? Two C-suite executives at your brand are saying completely polar opposite things in public. And clearly one is responding to the thing the other person said. If it was a mistake and it wasn't true, then Tim Stewart himself would have come out and said, like, I misspoke. So this whole wiggling out of it by saying we have no plan is like, yeah, I bet you don't have a plan because you're trying to figure out how you would do it, how you would pitch it, how it would work. I know you have no plan. So that's a nice way to say it. So that's kind of the angle I look at it is Microsoft and Sony are now going to be more intertwined with each other than they probably want to be, at least in a one-way way, because I don't think Sony really wants to be intertwined with Microsoft. And I think it forces us to think about ways in which games from that brand will come over. And we just saw a recent example of it, which I think people aren't talking too much about. And I think, well, there have been multiple examples. It's worth noting first that Minecraft is obviously already on the console. Call of Duty is going to be on the console, and so on and so forth. But there are now Xbox published games coming to the platform that would be pretty inexplicable in the past. And I'm not talking about disassociated stuff. I'm talking about, real things. So I'm not talking about letting go of Shadow Complex or something like that, or Mass Effect. These are smaller games, more intimately made games. And so I think that you have to consider that. And so as like you see a game like As Dusk Falls or other things come over, it's like, well, this is a new way of looking at things. And when you see Arcane, and maybe we'll have an answer now by the time this goes out, but when you see, like, why won't Arcane say what platforms the game's on? People get mad at you for observing that. But that's fucking weird. And everyone's like, well, it's implied. It's an Xbox studio. And I'm like, I don't think it's implied at all, dude. Like, why wouldn't you just say it? Why wouldn't it be all over the place?
Yeah, I think, what is it? The argument that's made is that it wasn't branded on the Indiana Jones thing or something. I think I saw somebody make that case.
Yeah, that was
confirmed to be a. I think that was confirmed. I think not officially to be a Xbox exclusive, but I think through the paperwork. I think during the Activision seat. Yeah. So it's weird that they're not saying it, but it's not necessarily 100% unprecedented for them.
I do think isn't it? I don't think it's, well, let me say this. It's strange that people's defense of this is also, well, they don't want to get in trouble with the FTC. It's like, oh, so they're trying to hide their true intentions from the regulators. That's right. Good. That's interesting. That's an interesting argument.
Weird.
Okay.
It's also weird because
that's your argument. That's cool. They don't want to tip the regulators off to their consolidation, so they don't want to say anything yet. It's like, oh, okay, that's a good answer. Thanks. Yeah. I'm sure Phil Spencer's thrilled to hear that would be the answer.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, let's throw Activision on the list and specifically again the angle of these two companies now and Microsoft and Sony really having to more intimately intertwine with each other and how this will play out, and imagining a la carte sales beyond As Dusk Falls and others. What will come next? Or will things be explored in a more AA and AAA fashion as well? leading up to Game Pass, whether a unique version of it or not. All right, Dustin, I think this is your last one.
It's my last one. Since I have two left, but this is the one we got to talk about. It's so important this year, and that's going to be the PlayStation Showcase shit show. I mean the shit show, not necessarily the showcase itself, which I definitely think you could argue was, but the reaction behind it. And I guess specifically too what happened with us and how the showcase came out. It had a big focus on live service stuff, had some other interesting stuff too. And we reacted just off the cuff after seeing it. And man, we had a different feeling than the audience. And just also not just to make it about us, but to see the pent up aggression that the PlayStation fans were feeling, the edging that was happening, and they were ready to fucking burst. And finally we get a showcase in the year of our Lord 2023. And it just I think there's 100% an argument that after being teased that long and felt like they hadn't said anything for so long with no showcase, just some interstitial state of plays, that on that from that viewpoint, absolutely the PlayStation Showcase could have been a lot more, should have been a lot more, was disappointing. And I can also understand too that the clear focus on live service can, depending on who you are as a player, also be very disappointing. So I'm, now we're at a point now where Sony really hasn't said very much since then. We've talked about how few press releases they've even put out this year. And so what is next year look like? Do we get a spring showcase? Do we get something else? Is it time for them to keep talking? Because the only time they've talked really this year, whether factually, overall, I think the most hardcore, we're not impressed with what they saw.
Yeah, can't deny that. And the rumors and what I had heard from a trusted source that there was an indication that they would go again this year. I think it's clear that things changed sometime probably in the calendar third quarter, because that's when people were leaving all these different studios. People were talking a lot about the consternation with the games as a service. Then all the Bungie stuff started happening. Jim Ryan retirement. It's clear that plans have just changed. Now they're like more in a holding pattern. And of course, indications being maybe it's unexpected because they don't even have a planned replacement, which is maybe something in that column. But yeah, I agree. It was a long time ago too. It was 6 months ago. They just haven't. This kind of goes in with one of the things I had on my list that I wasn't definitely going to get to, which I definitely wasn't going to get to, which was like Sony just being very quiet. That I've been. I mean, I don't want to say you. I start feeling stupid after a while, because it's like I said for a long time, like certainly it's going to be awesome when they go. Like they have to go. You assume the balloon has to burst at some point, and you just say it after a while for maybe a few years, and then you have to look and say, okay, I guess this isn't going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, let's hand it over to you for your last one.
All right. Well, I mean, biggest moments of 2023 or most important. I have a couple left here, but I think I have to, because this is the last one, right?
Yeah,
this is the final one.
Yeah.
You can have a runner up if you want or something. That's okay.
Or lightning round.
Yeah. We'll go through some of our other. So some of these other ones are pretty ridiculous, but I gotta bring up just GTA 6 no longer being a theoretical thing that's kind of in the shadows, and actually showing up and being real and breaking records in the way that it has, just from viewership alone. Like 90 million views in one day is crazy. And specifically, I bring this up specifically from the angle of PlayStation, because the fact that there is officially, or as far as the trailer is concerned and some of the press release stuff, that there is no day and date PC version is a big deal for PlayStation, especially where they sit right now, because they're just so clearly the market leader in this space, and this game is going to sell so much that, I mean, 2025 is going to be like I have to imagine that if no PS5 games at all come out in 2025, they would be amazing. They would be in an amazing position still, just from having that that market share and having a game of that stature and demand out in that way. And it's a similar, and not exactly, because Baldur's Gate was a different thing, but I mean, you have to imagine it's a similar situation where, like, man, what a huge thing for them in this position specifically.
Yeah. And that you didn't even mention too, the leaks. The leaks equally.
Yeah, that's true. The fact that it was leaked constantly.
Yeah. That like, what was it? Over an hour of footage. And then what was the kid like designated by the police that we thought it meant like he was autistic or something?
It was like AK or something like that.
AK,
autistic Kevin or something.
Yeah, he went there. I saw something. I didn't read it. I saw a headline though. There was something new about that kid in the UK. He's either in jail or they're processing something with him. All right. Yeah, that's good. I agree. I mean, that's when we get to GTA 6 in 2025. And I believe that it's totally possible that we would not even hear anything at all about this game next year from an official capacity. But although maybe we will, but 2025 confirmed for PS5, it's going to be just so huge. I'm really intrigued to see GTA. It's funny. I saw that the Tom Petty song that was in it went up something like 70,000% on Spotify.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a little bit of the Taylor Swift effect, not in that it's music or anything, but just in that wherever Taylor Swift goes, money follows. And
yeah,
so like she goes to in a city and it's just like there's $100 million spent that night or whatever, like, or whatever crazy shit like that happens in these various venues. And with GTA 6, it's another one of those things. People are just going to dump so much money into this thing and all the things that are surrounding it, like any brand that's involved with it, the console that it's going to be marketed or are bundled with, and so on and so forth. And wasn't there a rumor that, who was it? Was it Dre or someone saying that he did a whole radio station, and then it kind of like leaked, and then they kind of like had a recant. Like there's going to be serious ass licensing shit in this.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot wait. You would have to be out of your mind to not want to be involved with Grand Theft Auto 6. So it's literally pick of the litter. And I would assume a lot of people from Miami, like the Miami rap scene and all that kind of stuff, if you're smart. So I'm really interested to see like who from the real world is involved in all these different ways. And it's going to benefit all of them. Like Tom Petty's camp getting involved and letting them use his song.
Yeah.
I would hope
cool,
that when they got that contact, we would do this for free, but we're probably going to get an enormous amount of money. I hope they'd be that smart.
There's they got big swinging dick energy over there at Rockstar with this game.
Yeah,
like no questions. It's funny you said if Miami artists would be smart enough to get involved. It kind of got me thinking about the modernity of GTA 6 in comparison to GTA 5, which is so long ago now. I wonder if there are going to be podcasts in the game.
Oh, maybe that was one of the rumors too, that Rogan did something for GTA 6.
Yeah.
Like as one of the radio channels, which would be fucking hysterical. I mean, that would be so dope. You know? And that's what I'm talking about.
Hit us up.
That's what I'm talking about with money. Yeah, have us do it. What would be cool is if you could just play. I mean, you could do it already through Spotify, but something more endemic to the game where you could play like or have licensing opportunities to do kind of shit like that. That would be fucking cool as hell.
Yeah, they're like constantly changed. It would be so cool.
That was definitely one of the rumors, was that Rogan did something.
That's not necessarily off color for Grand Theft Auto though, because they have a long history of having comedian. Like I think Ricky Gervais and Bill Burr were in Grand Theft Auto 4, if I remember correctly. So that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and now they have again pick of the litter money, pick of the litter power. Can't wait to see it. All right.
Yeah.
My final one, I have 3 left, so I'll just use the one I think. It's a little bit of recency bias, no doubt, but I wanted to bring this up because I think it's important too as we go into the new year, which is all the drama surrounding the Game Awards I have been really smitten with and interested in, because it kind of came, I don't know, like this kind of seesaw that Jeff Keighley is on, I guess. So like Dorito Pope to TGA is like kind of teetering a little bit for the first time in what I would say is 10 years. And I think he'll be able to clean it up because people should give him the benefit of the doubt and he'll earn the benefit of the doubt and all of that. And I don't know that everyone's consternation is necessarily rooted in reality anyway, but there's like a lot of furor from every angle. Like the audience didn't like it. The media didn't like it. The developers didn't like it. The publishers didn't like it. It's like, oh, that's interesting because, and again, being disconnected from and this is again with the PlayStation showcase, it happened to me where I was like, oh, I thought that was pretty good. like not knowing what anyone had even said. And it's the same thing here where I just watched it. And you guys had texted me in the third hour about how boring it was. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It is boring. I'm just sitting here, but I'm not like really upset about it or anything or really thinking much deeper about it. And then I'm just trying to write my notes and kind of stay tuned. And in thinking about it now, it's like, I'm not really that bothered by the performance. I get everyone's consternation. And so something radically has to change with the show. Like it can't be done like that again. I don't think. And it's interesting to think about that when he's already announced the date for next year's show and all of that. And I know that that's not going to preclude a show from happening, but there's something interesting about the energy around this show. And I think a lot of it has to do with just why I think, frankly, I think there's a few things and some of them are not fair. I think one of the reasons people are eager to beat up Jeff in the Game Awards is because he didn't say anything about Palestine and Israel, or just simply Palestine, I think is what people would want to really hear about from the gaming community. And number two, I think people are disappointed maybe more reasonably that we've had record layoffs this year and there was no acknowledgement of that. I don't know that either of those are, because I understand the whole argument of saying, can we just celebrate? But that's the kind of thing is like, where's the celebration? It's just marketing new games. There's no celebration here. And I get the argument saying like people will not watch an award show. And I'm like, well, maybe you need to figure out why that is and how that is and how to fix that and divorce the marketing from the post-marketing. Like an award show is like everything's done and now you reap the benefits and you're merging these two things together and it doesn't work for everyone. And I was saying on the show, I'm like, from my perspective, I get why he's doing what he's doing. And I was wondering, right, opining aloud, is he getting paid for literally all of the reveals? Where does the marketing end and the awards begin and the organic reveal end and the paid marketing spot begin and all of that? And maybe there is something to figure out there, but we are definitely missing a big bang moment in video games. And I think you've been right about that all along, Chris, is that, and I don't think E3 is the answer either. I just think that maybe that era is gone. Like we're post E3. We're post there ever being an event where people are satisfied almost ever again, because there are so many games never go away. Games take so long to make. They're so risky and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know. I had to throw that out there. A little bit of recency bias, because I wonder if I would have said this in a few months, but it seems important to the social dynamic of the industry right now. And so I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, no, hold on. I was going to say just that I think that Jeff in particular, we talked about this, 2 days ago when we were recording. It's just that when last year we were like pretty high on it. And I know you mentioned that seesaw. I wouldn't say it's just a long-term seesaw, but it's a year-to-year seesaw in a lot of ways, where he's trying to balance the marketing and the awards. And last year I think was pretty good overall, where there's got to be an understanding that there has to be marketing in order to pay for it. And I'm not saying you don't understand that. There has to be to some degree, but it's like this year particularly felt, I don't know. I'd love to know the difference in first how many reveals there were, how many ads there were, and then just that in combination with all the photos right now coming out of people showing the screen that says, please wrap it up, to the designer of Legend of Zelda, the longtime designer, to Larian when they're talking about the people that passed away during their development. It's one of those things that I know to my understanding, it was just set up to be, they start talking and the timer starts. They don't know what they're going to say. They don't know that they were going to start talking about the people that died. But regardless, the balance was way off this year. And Maddie made a really good in-depth tweet where people have been giving Jeff the benefit of the doubt, where saying, well, he's figuring it out and he's doing his best. And that's kind of what the stance we were at the end of Sacred. And I was thinking about what Maddie said, and he's kind of past that at this point with how it's been 10 years. It's time to figure out the balance and get it consistently. Because especially this year was one of the worst ones in most recent memory, I think.
Yeah, it's been to be fair, longer than 10 years, because it's just 10 years of TGA. It's like he's been really doing this shit longer than that, going back to the Spike awards.
Yeah, the Spike Video Game Awards. Yeah.
So yeah, there is something to be said about that, and I think part of the thing about that for me is that I know him. I don't know him. I've met him several times. He's always been a nice guy, but I think he's genuine and real. Like I do think Jeff Keighley seems like a real person. And one of the things that I notice about him is he knows games. He knows them. Like you can tell, and I know that it would just be like he would be seeing this stuff, and I doubt it's on the teleprompter, but he'd always say something like when someone would win an award, like "Congratulations to this studio," like off the top of his head. And I'm not saying that that's anything. It's something. Like he does play. He is involved. He is immersed in a mesh, and so we root for him, or at least I do. But maybe we have given him too much rope, and maybe it's so much rope that he's going to hang himself with it, in some way, and that's the way it goes sometimes. Yeah. But
I did mention on a previous episode where I understand that criticism, and I understand that it's like, yeah, man, if he's had it for a long time, he's been trying to figure this stuff out, and it's never really quite right. It's better some years, worse some years, but it's never really quite right. And I think that's just kind of due to the inherent contradiction of awards marketing, and I just don't think it really works all that well together inherently. But it also, I don't know if it can exist without it. And that is the industry's problem, really. I mean, my first instinct would be to like, hey, listen, maybe you don't need the world premieres or all these things, and maybe you just scale this thing down to a reasonable degree where you can just do the awards, and it attracts the audience that would come anyway, and then you don't have any people, you don't have this weird inflation or this weird kind of necessity to make all this insane money with ads and stuff. But I also just kind of feel like who else would do this if not him? That's kind of exactly thing. Right. I don't know who else in the space would even be remotely qualified or knowledgeable enough to even pull off even a fraction of this,
or be agnostic, right, Chris? Like, or be like looked at agnostically, like, oh, we all don't mind you.
Right? Like it's impossible, and I really think Jeff is in between a rock and a hard place where like the thing he is married to and the thing that he is making will always be compromised because of the inherent nature of what it is. But I also think without Jeff Keighley, there probably just wouldn't be these awards in the first place, or like you would, or you already have you. And the other thing too is like you do have like the DICE Awards and like the BAFTAs, which are like granted not necessarily all just games, I guess, specifically with BAFTA, but like I mean those are more high esteemed award shows that do happen. They consistently, I don't hear about them, but they happen, and the awards are given out, and the developers care about them. So I don't know what's stopping. I don't know what. I guess the question really is, what is the purpose of the Game Awards aside from just awarding? And the reality is, it's like it's a dual machine. It's a marketing and it's a marketing tool and a celebration tool. And that's just always going to be compromised. I do think there are reasonable criticisms to be levied by the way it was handled and the way it's consistently handled. I just think the idea of like, yeah, can I thank the people who died? And Jeff Keighley going like, no, you don't understand. I need to do a little bit with a Muppet. And I need to let Kojima
publicly
speak.
Jerk him off.
Yeah, I need to let Kojima speak for 30 minutes. Like it's that's the part where it gets a little egregious to me, where it's like, look, I like Kojima. I think it's fascinating whatever the hell that is with Jordan Peele and Kojima working together. I have no concept of what it is. It's too early to show something like this, in my opinion. But that was such an insane amount of time given to something that really did not warrant it, in my opinion. And I say that as somebody who's a big Kojima fan. So there's definitely some pacing issues that are definitely Jeff's decision that I think do warrant some criticism.
Announcement. All right, awesome. Thanks, nigga. All right.
Jeff's a homie, man.
Dude, when you guys sent me that video, I literally responded, I'm LOLing. I was dying. Like I was like, that is so fucking funny.
My favorite part of that, when Dustin sent it, my favorite part of that video is he says it, and then the white guy in frame, he's like, oh yeah. It's like that reaction is so awesome. Like, what?
Oh boy. All right. Well, that's 15 moments. That was fun. Hope people enjoyed listening to it. we're going to review. We're going to record our upcoming episode after this soon to do the games of 2024 and go over the games we're excited about, which I think is a even more intriguing episode. So I'm looking forward to doing that. But let's go and say goodbye to everyone as we go around the horn. Dustin, let's go to you first. Goodbye to you, my friend.
Goodbye. This is a weird goodbye because we're not really saying goodbye. We're about to record again. But, either way, I hope that our 10 minutes or maybe even 5, I don't know, I have to pee. Hope you are well in that time in between. And I hope all of our audience is enjoying their Christmas and / holiday, whatever time. We're happy to be here for you when, you're out doing your shopping or your work, whatever.
Yeah, I was hoping for maybe even a little more. Like I was going to suggest like a half an hour or something.
Half an hour. Okay.
Yeah, so I can go walk the dogs and get a little daylight before
That's fine.
Yeah. So that works for me if that works for you. Chris, goodbye for now and hello again soon enough.
Yeah. I'll see you in mere moments.
Yeah.
Hope everybody's having a good holiday. Hope you didn't get coal or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
What is it? Is that a thing that ever happened, by the way?
I think it did. And then I only remember that my mom gave my dad coal, like a joke coal thing in his stocking when I was like a little kid. And that was the only exposure I ever had to anyone getting it. So that my only proximity to it was like a self-aware joke.
Yeah. My question to that was always like, what if you want coal?
You need to stay warm.
Yeah. It's a valuable asset in Victorian England. Yeah.
No, what if you were a bad kid and you wanted coal? Like, would you get a gift? I don't know.
Why would you want
logistics
coal?
of that?
You're like
I don't know. You're like a little evil genius.
You're an
Maybe
enthusiast.
you're making a little mech.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, like a little steampunk. Nice.
Yeah.
The Order 1886-ish. Final Fantasy VI, Magitech armor, things of this nature. All right, my friends. Well, I'll see you shortly. We'll see all of you next week for another episode. Until then, be well. Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, although Hanukkah is over by the time that you're hearing this. And Happy New Year, although I think we might see you again before New Year. I don't know how the calendar works. We'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye.
See ya.
Happy holidays, everybody. Get the hell out of here.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. It's edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.